Hi, I'm Dakota, and welcome to a singular critique of a soon-to-be author one's stories, Creep and Opposites. So if you don't know who a soon-to-be author one is, she is currently a fairly popular writer on TikTok and YouTube. She's known for her Creep and Opposite series. So I'll read the synopsis for you now. Creep's synopsis is, a young girl named Sarah has been sexually harassed by a boy named Tom at her school. Despite all her attempts to discourage him, he refuses to leave her alone, eventually leading to stalking her home. Ignored by her mother and teachers because Tom is just a boy with a crush, she eventually gets left alone with him, where he ends up sexually assaulting her, leading her to take her own life, feeling as though she can never escape Tom. This makes the news, and the letter she leaves ends up being read on TV, leading everyone to know what Tom did, causing him to be a social pariah and eventually being killed for his actions against Sarah. Opposite's synopsis is, a young woman named Opal runs into a young man named Rick. The two get along together amazingly despite being polar opposites in personalities to each other. But where has Opal seen Rick before? But before I get into the critique, I want to give some praises to both series, starting with the Creep series. It's very well written. Sarah doesn't feel like the perfect victim trope. She feels very realistic. There's moments where she does actually snap and insult and yell at Tom in public settings, and of course, people come back at her because they have no idea what Tom's been doing. There's moments where you are kind of hoping Tom just realizes the error of his ways and turns around up until he actually assaults her. And all around, it's a very good series. I truly recommend a read. I cannot give enough praises to it. It's very well written. You very much feel for all of the characters. You very much understand all of them. All of the side characters as well are also very well written. Again, truly, I'd recommend reading it if you haven't already. And yeah, that's my biggest praises for the Creep series. Truly, no notes, very well done, amazing beats, amazingly well written. I don't know how old the artist is, the writer, but she did an amazing job, portraying all of these characters. So, go check it out. And of course, praises for the Opposite series. I'm not the biggest love story kind of person, but I think it works very well. You really enjoy seeing Opal and Rick interact. They're very sweet. They're very cute together. This story's a bit drastically different from the Creep series, but it's still very good, very well written. And you can truly enjoy it, if you just let loose and just have a little fun with it. And, you really see how well Opal and Rick go together, not just as a couple, but just as people. And we're getting more of, the world building that connects the Opposite series in the same universe as the Creep series, even though it's very much drastic, like big time difference. The Opposite series happens after the Creep series, and it's still, it's still very well done. And honestly, praises to it. I can't wait to see how it goes because it's not a finished series. It's the ongoing one right now. But it's very good. I recommend reading it if you can, and with all these praises that I'm giving both of these series, you might wonder, what are my critiques of it? Well, I'll tell you. The characters, Tom and Creep, and their undeniable similarities, both as antagonists of their respective series. So, to get into it, I'll show you pictures of both of these characters just to show off similarities. And you'll probably notice them as soon as you see them. Because again, it's very visually obvious. So as you can see, they kind of both have a lot of visual similarities to one another. Not just the red shirts that I've just now kind of noticed. And not just are they very similar, they both have a lot of similar personality traits. The one difference is that Creek is into anime, and we don't really learn if Tom was ever into anime or not. But, they both harass the female protagonists. They're both the only fat characters of each of their series. For opposites, that's so far, but for both of their series, and they both have afro-like hair, compared to the other characters that have either straight hair or kind of wavy slash quote-unquote messy hair. And of course there's one character from both of the Creep and the opposite series that are black characters, and they both have, tight afro-like curls. They're very puffy, similar to each of the characters. But still, these are just the visual similarities both of them have. Even with this little character that's just like a little toddler, you might think, who's this? Who's that character if you haven't seen either of the series, And you might think it's Creek. And if you do think it's Creek, I'm very sorry to inform you, but this is actually a young version of Tom from Creek. That's what he looks like as a toddler. Which, he looks strikingly similar to Creek, that if you told anyone that was a young version of Creek, they'd probably believe you. And, it's through those similarities of characters that I have the singular critique that I don't think that the author is intentionally making these characters a sort of fat stereotype that is a negative stereotype. But, that's just what happens when you assign, antagonists or bad guy characters, or characters that are just not good people, a type of body or a type of physical characteristic. You're essentially kind of making it seem like you're trying to make that characteristic, be bad, when the truth is that that's probably not what the author is trying to do at all. Because Tom and Creek, their respective personalities have nothing to do with them being fat. You don't think for an instance that, oh, Tom's fat and that's why he feels the need to act the way he does. And you don't feel the same way with Creek. And it sort of gives this sort of, beauty equals, moral goodness versus ugly equals bad morals, and that's, like, not the, answer for either of the stories, obviously. So, the simple solution for this, and one that if the author sees this, I do recommend to the author, is just making another fat character. It's not making Tom thin. It's not making Creek thin. It's just making another fat character that isn't a bad person, or a weirdo, or a creep, They're just fat, they just exist, and that's it. Because then you're sort of balancing out that, oh, Creek's not bad because he's fat, he just happens to be fat and a bad person, And that's truly what you want to go for any stories. So, Yeah, so that's my singular critique of both stories. I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble for like over 7 minutes about both of these stories, and, I hope you enjoyed and understood my critiques, and, yeah, that's all I've got. So, have a good day.